Today, guys, I was riding around and decided to stop for a bit and do a little bit of a chat. There was something that I was thinking about for a while now, and it has to do with some of the motorcycle channels that are or have appeared, let's say, on platforms like TikTok that are also on YouTube as well. I had a couple of my subscribers recommend a few to me and wanted to get my thoughts. Now, the thing about giving a thought about somebody else's YouTube channel or somebody else's videos, you can't just watch one, you actually have to watch a few to get a better idea of what they're all about. The two that were sent to me were a guy by the name of Eddie, who's all over TikTok, and the other one is, I can't even remember the name, I think it's Adobe or Adobo or Adobo Bobo Moto or something like that. So I spent a couple of weeks actually watching a number of their videos. And the thing that... Okay, let's first talk about Eddie something or not, who has a lot of like really short videos on TikTok. I watched a number of them, and after watching them for a while, I kind of got the impression that this guy was trying to sell things. He felt more like a salesman than anything else. And the other thing is that a lot of the advice that he was giving, I'm not going to say it's bad advice. What is that? Oh, okay, doesn't matter. I was distracted there for a moment. I'm not going to say it's bad advice, but it certainly was not exactly good advice. A number of the videos that I watched from him, he was sort of advocating what I would call slightly unsafe behavior on a motorcycle. Now, since I ever got my first motorbike when I was like 12, 13, which was a Honda Monkey, from that day that I got the little thing, I was always told, safety, safety, safety first. Because safety is what keeps you alive. And that's sort of a theory that I have always followed. Friends of mine that I ride with occasionally will say, you ride like James May. Yes, I will admit that. I'm a little bit cautious sometimes, but that's just the way I ride. Depending, of course, on circumstances. I could be a bit of a maniac as well, but depending on the circumstance. A little bit unwise. So his advice, that is. And he has a lot of followers, and it's almost like a cult following that he has. And after doing a little bit of research, I discovered that he was involved in bodybuilding before. So he was doing bodybuilding videos, and then he stopped doing bodybuilding and then went into motorcycles. The other channel, which is the one whose name I cannot remember, I think it's Odobubu or Adibada or Azibadabada or Adobo Moto or something. Okay, this guy is just trying to be cool. He's using a lot of like what I call the language that you hear on a lot of very techy American Top 40 type radios, and using these. I mean, it's just really silly. And some of the advice that he gives is actually, I admit, is quite good. But also at times I feel like he's trying to sell something. There are other times, however, where the advice is I'm like, okay, honestly, I'll give you an example. There are some motorcycle channels, including his, that will always tell riders, oh, there's a lot of things you can do yourself. And I granted that anybody who has a motorcycle or even car should know some basic stuff. For example, if you have a motorcycle, changing the clutch cable, changing the spark plug, filling your air with tires, trying to keep your chain clean. That I totally get. But when he starts giving advice how you should be taking things apart and doing this, that, and the other, because it'll save you money from going to a dealer or a mechanic, that's when I kind of draw the line. Because the reality is, even though he may do it, I may do it, and I know one other friend of mine that does the same thing, most do not. That is just the reality. Do you really want to give advice to people about how to take something apart if they really know nothing about it? Changing a clutch cable is one thing, and I think everybody should know that. But coming down to things like changing all your sprockets and changing this and opening this engine to change this seal, and I'm just like, honestly, no. You should never give that kind of advice, and I think that's absolutely dreadful. There's another YouTube channel that I happen to like called Motorcycle Adventures, which is produced and presented by a chap called Pavlin. He's from Bulgaria, and I love his channel. And he has probably, I think, one of the greatest voices out there. I'm going to do a bit of an impersonation of him. This is just complete for flattery because I love his channel, but he's got this kind of voice. And he was saying on one of his channels, you know, a lot of people, when they think that they can do repairs and everything, what you hear from all over the place, don't do it unless you really know what you are doing. If you want to change something basic, go right ahead. But if you want to get into things more complicated, don't try to do it yourself if you have never done it before. It is a terrible, terrible mistake. Have someone who is an expert fix it for you, which I totally agree with. The channel that I was just talking about, goes by Adu Babe Bibi Baba Boa Dodo. In one of his videos, he was telling people you can change oil yourself. Now that's fine. An oil change is not that complicated, but he never got into how you would dispose of the oil that you have left in your motorcycle. Now, I'm very lucky because at my little shed, which is just a workspace where I store my bikes and do repairs and everything, I'm very lucky in that just a few meters away is a motorcycle repair shop, and they will buy my used oil because there's a company that goes around and buys up used oil, which they use for recycling and everything. So I bring it there, and he gives me a few dollars, or sometimes just gives me a drink, and that's it. Most people do not have that luxury. What happens if you live in an apartment building, in the parking garage, where the light's not very good? I mean, there's so many factors. So yes, while some people can do it, it doesn't mean you should be telling everybody that they can do it. And also, some of the riding advice that he gives is a little bit suspect. I've read comments on his channel when somebody disagrees with, let's say, riding advice, he gets upset about it. Well, if you're going to get upset about it, then you shouldn't be doing stuff on TikTok or any type of social media platform. That is just the reality. So my advice out there is all these motorcycle channels that will tell you how, or no, they don't tell you how to do it. They tell you this is what you should be doing. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't like, I mean, even I won't doubt it. I will not tell somebody this is something you should be doing unless I strongly believe it, and I strongly believe that most people can do it. If it's something that I think 90% of the population, it's too complicated for them, I will never give that kind of advice. I think it's sloppy, and if somebody does something and then damages something, these channels can always say, well, I just gave the advice and I told them this is what they should be doing. I'm not going to take responsibility. Well, I think you should take responsibility for irresponsible information. That is just the way it is. So a lot of these channels out there, really, these are just two that were recommended to me. I'm looking off this way because I'm just checking the road that I have to take after, and there's a little bit of traffic. I'm waiting for it to clear and to finish my coffee at the same time. But I was going to say, these channels that give this kind of advice really take what they say with the tiniest grain of salt, or actually don't pay any attention to them at all, unless you really think that you can do it. But don't get influenced by them by doing something that you know that you probably can't do. And there's a lot of people out there that would think, oh, this is easy, but then realize actually it's harder than it is. Not that long ago, somebody brought me a scooter, and it's clearing up. Somebody brought me a scooter, and they said, well, they read online, and they said it seemed very simple. Well, after they started taking things apart, they realized that it wasn't as simple as they thought, because firstly, they didn't have many of the correct tools. They ended up damaging a few parts, and they made a complete cock-up of it. So they brought it to me to kind of put it back together, and I said, what was the video that where did you see this? And he couldn't remember, and it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying, like, if you're taking advice from somebody on the internet saying, fiddle with everything and take it apart and fix it, yourself, instead of bringing it to a dealer or a mechanic, think twice about that. Really think twice. Also, for riding advice, these guys, I kind of feel from many of the videos that I watched, even videos where they're riding, they seemed a little bit restless. And they seem like the type that, okay, they have a good skill level, but a lot of people don't have that skill level. And you shouldn't be telling somebody how to ride a certain way if they don't have that skill level. Just irresponsible. And the thing that is annoying me the most about them is they try to sound like typical American top 40 DJs. They're trying to sound like top 40 DJs and they're doing this kind of thing and using these silly terms and acronyms. And this is rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. So, there are some good channels out there. The one that I mentioned, Motorcycle Adventures, I'll put a link in the description box below. Good place to start because Pavel will give information not just for the experienced rider on long distance traveling and repairs, but also things that somebody could learn basic stuff without, going too far. Anyway, that's it. That's all that for this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. I have to finish this stuff now and get going because the traffic is starting to clear. I've been kind of, if you wait, I'm looking this way because I can see the top of the expressway, and it's starting to clear now. I only stopped here for a coffee, but also traffic was getting a little bit bad. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.